Good afternoon, everyone, and a really warm welcome to what promises to be a very thought-provoking and invigorating discussion. And I'm fully aware that this is a session that is keeping you away from the lunch, but I'm really, very, very excited about the topic, which is around reverse mentoring. And, I think it'll be right for me to say that, when we are looking at some of the new age concepts in today's time, one of the premise that we used to have that, leadership lessons can only be top down, right? And it can only transfer from somebody who is senior to junior or, experienced to somebody who is emerging. This entire concept of reverse mentoring is actually, taking that whole premise, on the top of its head, really trying to challenge the notions of how leadership has been defined, really challenging the notions of how we work together in teams. And I have a wonderful panel to really discuss about this topic and actually discuss on whether this is just a cool initiative or is there anything more to it. And I'm really privileged to have both of them because both Anuprita and Deepak have had personal experiences. So rather than just talking about theory and concepts, we'll get into the real meat of the conversation on how well it is working and where is an opportunity for organizations to really scale it up. And do we really need to scale it up or not? That's also a question that we'll probably delve a little bit more in detail. Thank you so much, Deepak, Anuprita. And my first question is actually to both of you. And like I mentioned, you were talking, earlier we were chatting that you have both experimented with the idea of reverse mentoring. And reverse mentoring largely is sometimes looked upon only as generational. Many of us have 5 generations of work, but it would be interesting to hear your experiences of, what went into it and how you have used cross-collaboration more effectively through, reverse mentoring. So maybe I'll start with you, Deepak.
Sure.
If you could share one example where you felt, that led to a clear shift in mindset, Deepak, something where the team dynamic shifted, due to the reverse mentoring, and maybe share your own personal experience as well.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Shweta, and it's great to be here on the session, on such a passionate topic. You're absolutely right. Reverse mentoring is far beyond, in my view, than younger to senior dynamic. And I've seen that personally before I get into the specific example. I have been a personal beneficiary as a tech leader to take reverse mentoring from an operations leader of my own generation. So it was not like a different generation who is mentoring me, but the sheer benefit of getting this reverse mentoring from someone who is a non-tech leader and to a tech leader was just amazing, very eye-opening. I've also seen in my career where the reverse mentoring is happening within tech discipline. For example, a tester mentoring to a developer. But coming to the specific example, it's last year, and we have a senior executive who was leading our brand strategy. He was paired with a Gen Z mentor, and the Gen Z mentor comes and says, hey, we should look at value marketing using short form videos. So initially, the brand leader was very skeptical that whether it's work or not work, but good thing is they were talking without egos. And this mentor came in with a lot of competitive studies, marketing studies, demos and things like that. And they co-led a pilot to use short form video content on certain social media platforms. And guess what? We saw 40% engagement increase in young audience. So it's not just an example of something where a decision was influenced, but whole mindset on the branding side was challenged. So in my view, reverse mentoring is not only helping, resolve some of the conflicts which get hidden within the generations, but it's also helping exploring the new ways of working.
Anuprita, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. A very good afternoon to all of you. Before going in a little bit about how we do it in Merck, I want to share a personal story which I witnessed during my experience and being young into the tech leadership, how me, my manager, we were all perceived. It's very important, first of all, to have that mindset. So while I was being selected for one of the positions which I applied, it was in a senior role. And the only reason for rejection was that how would I be able to manage the country council where 110 people have perspectives with very, very primitive thought process. And, that was my rejection criteria when it came to saying that maybe you are too young to be able to handle the country council members who were at least 25 plus years experience. And at that point in time, I was like 16, 17 years of experience. And people were really talking about, okay, maybe she won't be able to manage. It was a disappointment. I was applying for the head of HR role, and then I did not get through. And then that was my feedback criteria saying that, okay, you probably need a little more years of experience to be able to handle those leaders. That's when exactly the IT head opportunity came up to me, and I took it because I wanted to sit in that same country council and be that same leader with that leader saying that we can manage country council together, and it really doesn't matter what years of experience you bring onto the table. What is your potential and how you can progress for the organization is what matters. So experiencing it myself, it is very important from Merck's perspective that we acknowledge the fact that there is a lack of acceptance. And it could be purely because it is important while you're at the top, not there are many positions, but also the power play is something which really counts on. So having that mindset shift, to be able to bring people who are talented and progress the organization towards its growth, that mindset shift was the first piece which we picked up through certain awareness programs which we run. So first we had in Merck, we had a survey to bring what really is hindering this change. And then bringing from that survey is the reality to the anonymously you give the results out to the leaders, and that brought out the brutal reality of the mindset of the leaders sitting out there, and also not looking at the potential but looking at the years of experience you've had. So that is a bit of it. I have a lot of stories to share, but probably I'll go to you.
And maybe we'll get to a few more stories soon,
Yeah.
Anuprita. Thank you so much. But let's be real, Deepak and Anuprita. Let's leave even the reverse mentoring for a minute. Not all mentoring relationships work, right? And in the dynamics of a team, certainly reverse mentoring, whether we are talking about a cross-generational aspect or for that matter, a diverse kind of a workforce, where somebody who is very different from the, other person is trying to reach, it comes up its own, challenges as well. So I would like to delve a little bit about the possible things that we should be careful about or where we can fail. So in your personal experiences, when you have been mentored, in a reverse mentoring situation, or you have mentored others, how do you think that, the power and the perspectives really need to keep, what do we need to keep in mind while, working in a reverse mentoring situation? Is there any extra points that we should be careful of? Are we really talking about orienting the people in a different way so that some of these challenges don't come to the fore? Anything that you would want to talk about based on your experience? Some key aspects that we should be careful about.
So, I would take the liberty of taking it a little personal and closer to our day-to-day lives. It's like a perfect mother-in-law, daughter-in-law situation, right? When you have a new daughter-in-law coming in, the mother-in-law becomes a little more protective, controlling, and wants to do her way the things were, not adapting to the way the daughter-in-law could get. It's a similar situation, I would say, that, when new generations are coming in with pragmatic views, new technology, faster adaptability, different perspectives, we tend to bring our years of experience and all of that on the table and put weight onto it. However, both the ways are important. Not one way really works. It is the relationship which you have to build together, navigating through what really makes sense to take it along and what really makes sense to shed it down. Like, if there's something redundant, you leave it behind, and if something progressive, you take it ahead. So it's exactly the balance which has to be brought about when you are doing it. It is a two-way journey. It doesn't belong to only one generation. It has to go hand in hand, is when the entire workforce really gathers and gets a lot of benefit out of it. So within Merck, we exactly have these parameters which we are working on. It's a journey together. We started in 2019, where I am proud ERG was started as an initiative, and there people, we bring thought processes. What does Gen Z's workforce want from future leaders or future workplaces? Hearing them out, which itself gives a cultural shift to people's mind. It opens up, what are they wanting? If they want to go bungee jumping, we don't really think that they are always bungee jumping. It's just one of the things which they would want to do outside of their work. If they ask for a work-life balance, doesn't mean that they say no to work, but it's just that, being aware of their time frames as well. So there are different perspectives. I would say that, having to both the blend of both of it would make more benefit for the organization rather than skewing it to any of the ways.
Deepak would love to hear from you.
No, I think Anuprita mentioned, it's a two-way street. I fully agree with that. But in my personal experience, some of the reasons which I have seen, the mentorship getting, this whole reverse mentorship concept failing, are like fundamental disconnects. People do not agree on something which we call principles sometimes, egos. Sometimes it's not understanding the full picture. Trust deficit. Maybe I'd like to call it a real story from experience. So this is a story where a Gen Z is mentoring a millennial. So project leader, and Gen Z comes and says, you know what, your estimations looks very inflated. You need to, bring them down. And the person who is being mentored, mentee, thinks like, oh, he does not have full picture. He is short-sighted. And he's not understanding the peripheral aspects of the project. So now there's tension between them. Unconsciously, mentee takes over, dominates the conversation. Though he's a mentee, he's almost becomes a mentor now. A mentor feels like, I'm being not listened to. I think that's where Anuprita also touched upon. We need to have that ecosystem. I think in our organization, we have learned hard that this is a culture transformation. We need to have an ecosystem environment where people are not only listening to each other. I think that's the basic, but I think they're learning to converge on the divergent thoughts. That's very, very important. And we had some interventions in that, in that particular situations through checkpoints, some third party coming in. And finally, they thought both were right, and they had different perspectives, and truth was lying somewhere in between. So I think that's very important, that how much we are investing in that culture. We just can't leave it on mentor and mentee. Organization has to support this very structurally.
And I can't help, but share a little personal story as well. This is just about maybe 8-9 years where we were trying in SAP to, to start on the reverse mentoring journey. And we had a first cohort of mentors, and we were really talking about generational mentoring, right? So we had the first set of cohort of senior leaders who were very, very interested to be mentored by the early talents, who were there in the organization. And as a part of the enablement, one of the leaders actually stood up and said, it was some heated conversation where he said, this generation really should see recession, then they will have a better appreciation for the job. And it was a little bit of an aha moment for me, because we can't blame, another generation for not going through recession. They have had their own challenges, but how much of our own lens are we applying when we are evaluating, the right kind of cultural mind shift that needs to come in on topics like this. But I think, Anuprita, Deepak, both of you touched upon a little bit, on what are the things that we need to be careful of. But one of the questions which will be in the mind of many people is really what is the return on investment, right? Are we really looking at treating this as just as a cool initiative or a fad? Does it actually influence his decision making? Have you seen an increase in leadership accountability? Have you seen that the business thinking on the top has also transformed? And if any one of us in the audience would really want to pitch it, to their leadership and say, let's make it happen, what are some of the things that we can promise that will happen, if we kind of go ahead with this concept? Maybe Deepak, I'll start with you on
Sure.
this.
It's hard, to measure ROI on these kind of concepts. But we have seen the ROI. But first step, is not to start measuring ROI. I think the first step is to make it structured. When I say structure, what do I mean? Are we taking the insights from the reverse mentorship and cross-generation collaboration and baking that into a leadership development philosophy, into a competency framework? Because if it's not there, then it's very difficult to scale it up. You will have 3-4 incidents happening of reverse mentorship in the year, and it will look like a cool thing, but nothing will come out of it. So first step is to bring that structure. Are you having the right representation in the various forums or different generations? For example, if you have an idea reviews committee, do you have only MDs of the organization sitting in that? Or do you have different generations sitting in that? Once you have this structure, what we have seen is there are some metrics which are easy to measure. For example, the success of the initiative itself. Small survey with mentor and mentee. But for example, what we have started doing is how many ideas are coming through this initiative? If 100 ideas coming in a year, how many are productionalized? About 5, 6, if the number is too low, why is that? And then we start relating those productionalized ideas that how much they are adding to the product innovation index, how much they are adding to time to market, cost saves, things like that. So yes, it's a little difficult. It's like a multi-stage process, but we have seen some success.
That's good to hear, Deepak. Anuprita, one slightly different question which also comes to the mind of many of us when we think about reverse mentoring is because there is also an underlying element of privilege, digital access, which somehow the bias and the assumption is the newer generation probably is more apt to this. Also the communication styles, the communication style of one generation could be very different, right, from other. How do you think we deal with these dynamics? And again and again, I'm going back to that element of how do you enable and build a culture which is conducive for reverse mentoring? So any insights that you can share on that?
Yeah. I'll take one example. I have a mixed team where, I have some senior folks, some interning college students. And there was one person who walked up to me and said that, this intern, I am such a senior resource in the team, but she doesn't give me the due respect which I need to have being a senior in the organization. And my first question to him is that, what do you mean by respect? So he's like, okay, the basic, I am coming in, so she should acknowledge me that I'm here. She should also give me the first preference to talk in the forum, blah, blah, blah. And the list went on. I'm sure you would have heard many times. My only question to him was that, if you seek respect, what did you make her learn while you were doing something fruitful? And he had a blank face. And he was like, I am there. I can tell her anything she wants to learn from me. So I said, okay, that means you are also still waiting for her to come to you rather than you going and telling or you giving an extension of your support saying that, hey, you are new to the organization. I am there. If you need any support, I would be there. You can count on me. At times, the virtue and weight of this really holds on for us to be the nicer one. I think we complicate it most often. And if you complicate it further saying that, oh, I am the senior one, the junior one has to come to me, or the junior one has to think that, oh, I cannot go because he's so senior and he will not take it rightly, the organization in itself will fail. Diverse thought process, someone's strength has to be utilized in the organization. Everyone brings unique strengths to the organization, and having this diverse thought process, the diversity in age, demography, etc., brings lot more value. I'm sure I am talking to a lot of people related fraternity. You would have heard this classic video of making penguins and not having peacocks in the organization. That's not what is the intent. So, it is very important. You as a leader have to first shift your mindset. And that's where we start from. If our mindset has shifted, you can yourself bring change into the organization's culture, walk the talk, and make the organization shift eventually. It's not an overnight journey, and it would take efforts. You will need people who are there for you to run the initiatives, do the checklist, do the awareness session, look at how where the gaps are, and fill in then. So that's how I think it has to go.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to kind of summarize, what we wanted to share, Anuprita. If I have to just kind of conclude here, the fact of the matter certainly is that reverse mentoring is here to stay. Whether we are embracing it or not is a question that all of us really need to ask. I think it's also important for us to keep in mind that this is not a catch-all solution to all the challenges that we have in the organization when we look at a diverse workforce. It has to be dealt with a lot of sensitivity. It has to be dealt with a lot of enablement. It is something which helps to build a great culture in the organization, but it is also going to be requiring that effort to make sure that the right enablement, the right culture change, the right questions are being asked, and also to make sure that everybody feels supported, whether it is, the person who's being mentored or the person who's passing on the mentoring. They are supported with the right kind of frameworks. With that, thank you so much, Deepak. Thank you, Anuprita, for this wonderful conversation. We are just on time, so I have certainly stuck to the time and not taken more for the lunch. Thank you. Thank you.